When most people think of global wealth and power, they picture Wall Street, Swiss banks, or oil-rich Gulf states. They don't think of Burkina Faso, a landlocked West African nation with a turbulent political history and limited infrastructure. But quietly, something is shifting. Burkina Faso is rejecting foreign control, reclaiming the resources, and positioning itself for sovereign wealth in a way that's catching the attention of global elites. This is not a viral news headline. This is a wealth migration move playing out in real time. The video doesn't offer judgment, it offers facts. The implications, you decide. Let's examine how one of the world's most overlooked countries is becoming a serious player in the new wealth order and why billionaires are quietly watching. Burkina Faso was long seen as a dependent state, relying on foreign aid, riddled with instability, and influenced heavily by former colonial powers, particularly France. But over the last 2 years, the tone has changed. Military leadership has pushed back against Western involvement, expelled French troops, and cut military ties with external forces. Instead, they're turning inward and toward African partnerships, particularly through the formation of regional blocs with Mali and Niger, forming what some call a new axis of independence. This isn't just military posturing. It's a symbolic break from neo-colonial influence politically and economically. They've also removed the French language from official documentation and education, accelerating a shift toward cultural and political self-determination. And leading this charge is Captain Ibrahim Traoré, who became the world's youngest head of state in 2022 at just 34 years old. Rising to power through a military transition, Traoré has positioned himself as a symbol of new Pan-African consciousness. His leadership blends radical sovereignty with youthful resolve and is challenging traditional diplomatic frameworks. He has repeatedly stated that Burkina Faso must move from being a colony of exploitation to a nation of builders. His speeches often cite Thomas Sankara, the revolutionary leader who inspired economic self-reliance and women's rights reforms in the 1980s. Traoré's popularity stems from not just politics, but from positioning himself as a continuation of that legacy. Still, questions remain. What are the long-term effects of militarized leadership in civilian context? Can sovereignty gained through force be sustained through policy? In October of 2023, Traoré announced a new national charter that reframed foreign engagement entirely, proposing a framework where foreign countries must co-own resource projects with local cooperatives. This hasn't fully been implemented, but it marks a vision radically different from traditional FDI models. Why does this matter? Because stepping out of the shadow of foreign military and linguistic control is a bold geopolitical move, one that signals sovereignty not just in defense, but in economics and identity. What makes this shift even more significant is its timing. As global powers face rising domestic instability and declining trust, smaller nations asserting autonomy may represent the future of multipolar influence. And the world has noticed. International media coverage has been mixed. Some call it a brave stand for independence, others a destabilizing rejection of global norms. But either way, question lingers. What happens when a small nation decides to rewrite the rules and no longer plays by the ones it didn't write? Burkina Faso is rich in natural resources, particularly gold. In fact, it's one of Africa's top gold producers, with gold making up over 70% of the country's exports. For decades, foreign mining companies extracted the country's wealth while returning a fraction in taxes and royalties. Now, that's changing. New leadership is renegotiating mining contracts, asserting national ownership over gold assets, and demanding better deals for local communities. There's even talk of establishing a state-run gold refinery to process and store the country's gold domestically, keeping the value chain at home. This is more than politics, it's financial strategy. Billionaires know whoever controls the gold controls the leverage, and when a country reclaims that leverage, the power map starts to shift. Burkina Faso is also looking into digital gold-backed currencies with regional allies, potentially creating an alternative to CFA franc dependency, a move that would redefine financial autonomy for the region. Perhaps most provocatively, these shifts in gold policy hint at the rise of a commodity-based regional currency system, challenging fiat currency dominance and offering a blueprint for others seeking monetary independence. In February of 2024, the government also announced plans to audit all major foreign mining concessions, a move that has raised eyebrows in international business circles. With several mines temporarily suspended pending review, it's clear the country is ready to renegotiate the terms of its participation in global markets. Meanwhile, Burkina Faso has quietly increased gold reserves held domestically, a signal not lost on economists who track physical bullion as a hedge against future sanctions or foreign currency exposure. And yet, global reaction has been calculated. Some multinationals are pausing investment, financial institutions are reassessing exposure, quiet memos are circulating about reputational risk and investor flight. Is this caution or concern that others might follow? What happens to a global financial system when nations realize they can say no? Instead of relying on aid or IMF loans, Burkina Faso is doubling down on agriculture, energy independence, and intra-African cooperation. There's a clear pattern: invest in food sovereignty, local farming cooperatives, seed banks, and distribution. Partner with nations like Mali, Guinea, and Niger on economic defense zones. Explore new tech like mobile banking and solar infrastructure to leapfrog development hurdles. In rural regions, solar microgrids and mobile fintech services are expanding, allowing farmers and traders to bypass unreliable infrastructure and central banks. There's also a rise in local entrepreneurial ecosystems, youth-led tech hubs, indigenous fashion exports, and digital marketplaces that contribute to a decentralized, community-driven economy. In 2023, the government launched a Rural Startup Grant Initiative aimed at helping youth create agri-tech solutions, which has already seen small-scale irrigation, drought-resistant crop labs, and vertical farming pilots. The goal isn't to become a tech giant, it's to become unbreakable. Education reforms are also underway, shifting focus from colonial curriculum to practical trades, ecology, and local languages. In a world facing climate instability and job displacement, some argue this model may be more future-proof than conventional Western systems. This idea is not to mirror Silicon Valley, but to cultivate practical innovation, solving local problems with local tools. One such innovation includes the introduction of a digital bartering system using mobile tokens in rural trade markets, boosting local liquidity without traditional currency exchange. Burkina Faso is asking a powerful question: can a nation become rich by refusing to play someone else's economic game? Can it create wealth not from extraction but from intention? And as aid dollars diminish and debt burdens rise elsewhere, is Burkina Faso quietly proving that resilience, not reliance, is the better foundation for growth? You may not see Warren Buffett moving to Ouagadougou, but make no mistake, high net worth individuals and sovereign wealth analysts are paying close attention. Because when a country takes control of its resources, pushes out foreign debt cycles, and builds resilient local economies, that's not just sovereignty, that's insulation. In a world of volatile markets, AI disruptions, and global conflict, sovereign insulation is the ultimate flex. Burkina Faso is modeling a playbook few expected. Control your borders, own your assets, build with your neighbors. Wealth migration strategists, decentralization advocates, and geopolitical hedge funds are taking notes. They understand that early movers in overlooked markets often yield outsized long-term returns, whether in natural resources, tech, or strategic alliances. Some frontier market investors are even replacing the term emerging with sovereign re-emerging. The rationale? When a country controls its assets, its laws, and its leverage, the potential isn't speculative, it's structural. Behind the scenes, think tanks and private intelligence groups have begun mapping new risk models for the Sahel region. What once was classified as unstable is now being rebranded as strategically unaligned, a powerful shift in investor psychology. And as Western institutions retreat, new global players including Russia, Turkey, and the UAE are entering discussions around trade, energy, and infrastructure. These are not hypothetical power shifts, they are already in motion. Private equity firms specializing in frontier markets have begun adjusting their projections for the region, citing a risk premium mismatch, a quiet acknowledgement that Western perceptions may no longer align with emerging on-ground realities. So the question is no longer if billionaires are watching, the real question is, what will they do with what they see? Burkina Faso isn't just rewriting its story, it's redrawing the map. And if you're only looking at cities like Dubai, Zurich, or Singapore to understand where wealth is going next, you're already behind. The next power centers may rise from the places the world forgot, where communities invest in themselves, where sovereignty is non-negotiable, and where legacy isn't bought, it's built. This video doesn't offer opinions, just data. What you do with it is yours to decide. So watch closely, because the smart money already is. And ask yourself, if a nation reclaims its gold, its land, and its language, is it rebelling or simply remembering who it's always been? And more provocatively, what if the real revolution isn't armed, but quietly structurally economic?